Ground level theology, oh yeah, making sense of the concepts, loud and clear, no need to be a scholar, no need to be elite. Ground level theology, making it sweet.
And we are back, folks. Season 4, you thought it would never drop. You thought we were through, but we are back. We did not forsake you, nor will we ever. And with us, as always, the co-host to Ground Level Theology, David Hoffman. Welcome back.
Oh, it's so good to be back. I was out in a far distant land, and now we're back in the land of promise.
Yeah, the problem to why we started so late, as you can see, David now has a home right behind him.
Yes, the Parthenon.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it's
The-
just one of those things, folks, where we are pastors. We do have families that we are taking care of. I have one on the way, so I'm hoping that doesn't bog down our season too much. But if it does, that's just with the territory. Like I said, we are human beings. We are pastors. Things do come up. And that is the reason for the delay of this season. But without any further ado, we are getting started with season 4. Dave, you and I talked about this. We are probably the latest on this scene. Like,
well,
we are, it's,
99.9.
yeah, it is way, way late to be covering this. But actually, as I was talking to certain other people, I found out people still don't know the story. And so I felt we should still do this episode. So our first episode of season 4 is chronicling, because I don't really feel like we can say reporting. It's a little late, but chronicling Wesley Huff and the Billy Carson debate, or maybe to kind of recap this, the rise of Wes Huff and the fall of Billy Carson.
Yeah, that's a good way to say it. Yeah.
Well, folks, just to give you a quick rundown, Billy Carson is one of those weird conspiracy theorists, and I think he's one of those con men. We're going to go through a lot of clips today, so feel free. I mean, sit back, guys. Grab your popcorn. You are in for a ride if you have not heard about this guy. Um, this is going to be one of those wonderful stories, and we're going to see a Christian apologist by the name of Wes Huff really rise from this encounter. So really grab some popcorn because you're going to enjoy this story. Anyways, Billy Carson, one of those conspiracy theorist guys, somehow just starts gaining attention on the web. I mean, he is just moving up in popularity. So many views on his YouTube channel. He's getting on podcast. He's even on the Joe Rogan podcast, which is like the top tier premier podcast. I mean, that is better than a TV show nowadays. That is better than 60 Minutes. To get on the Joe Rogan podcast is to be at the height of what people watch. And he was on it. So he came on somehow as a credible scholar. And what you'll see is we sort of have to put that in quotes, because without any further ado, let's just start jumping into some videos. Now, bear with me, folks, because we are coming back, and there is some rust. So just help me out with this. Let's see some clips. Well, let's jump into the Joe Rogan one. We're gonna hear a little bit about how he describes himself. So this is him claiming that he knows cuneiform.
To decipher, break down, and understand, and that's what we're here to do now. When you look at these ancient languages like cuneiform, can you read that? Do you know how to read it?
Yeah, a small amount of it, yeah. Studying
How
it
does it
from
work?
books that I had bought right off of Amazon.
Oh.
Yeah, so basically you take a stick. It looks like a stick with a kind of a curved end, right? Almost sharpened. It's called a stylus. And then
Just like a stylus for an iPad.
exactly, very similar, right? And then you take a piece of wet clay, and right before it's too wet or too dry, right in the middle stage, you then start wedging, making these incredible lines into the clay, and then from that you get this cuneiform text. So this text literally, some of the letters actually relate to complete ideas. But it's incredible work, and it takes a long time to do. And then you have to let this thing dry, and then it becomes stone. So, if people were supposed to be trying to worry about
All right, so there we hear he knows cuneiform. He knows how to read cuneiform. What he just described is how you write on cuneiform. But what he said is he knows how to read it, which is a completely different claim, other than knowing what it is and how it's accomplished. So he says that he knows cuneiform. He also claims to know how to translate these tabs. I'll just show that real quick.
the UCLA CDLI online cuneiform digital library, say that fast 10 times, I was able to take stone tablets and decipher them myself. So anyone can go online to the UCLA CDLI online cuneiform digital library and read these stone tablets for themselves. You don't need Zacharias Hitchens. You don't need anyone else. And as I began to break these tablets down,
Do they have them transcribed, or are you reading the actual tablet?
they transcribe them. They actually transcribe them into English for you.
Is there controversy as far as, like, are there different versions of the transcription? Like, does some people think it's interpreted differently? Is like some debate about that?
Only where it comes to where some of the text is missing. There could be pieces chipped off of tablets. You see
Right.
that corner missing from that tablet right there in the Epic of
Isn't that-
Gilgamesh.
just look how wild is that?
Yeah,
Just
it's
how
incredible.
wild is that exists?
Yeah.
And that this was, it's so hard for people to put in their brain
Mm-hmm.
5.
All right. Dave, did you catch that? He said that he knows how to translate cuneiform, and as he said at the beginning of that clip, he translated many cuneiform tablets. But did you catch what he said when Joe Rogan? He didn't mean to press him on it. I mean, he wasn't trying to see if Billy Carson was actually doing it. He sort of just asked to.
Nonchalant. Yeah.
Yeah, and did you notice that he changed his position from, oh, I translated this, I know cuneiform, to, oh, it's already transcribed.
Yeah, like, are you personally transcribing it?
Yeah, and
Like, are you saying, like, as my doctoral work, they used my transcriptions?
yeah,
You're
and
like, that's not what he's saying. Hey, did you know I could read hieroglyphics? You paint them on a wall, and then you go to a museum, and then there's a note that tells you what it says.
yeah,
But I can read
exactly.
hieroglyphics.
Folks, that is essentially what he's doing. But what he starts with is, I know how to read cuneiform. What he ends with when you press him is, I know how to read the translation next to that cuneiform because it's
So he knows
already
how to
been
read.
translated.
Cool.
So
Not a lot of people can do that,
it's-
Not a lot of people can do that.
it's hilarious. There's all sorts of things like that with this guy. Like I said, there's a lot of clips. Here's where we're going to start getting a little bit into the sort of conspiracy theory of him. This is the Earth in its age. Let's go ahead and jump into that real quick.
6,000-year-old theme. The Earth is only 6,000 years old. The reason why people think the Earth is 6,000 years old is because most of the tablets are 6,000 years old, and the Bible was written from the information that came from tablets. So that's as far back as anybody's quote-unquote knowledge seems to extend. That's where the 6,000-year-old theory comes from. But they've taken that thing and turned it into a religion. I remember one guy DM'd me, and he was going off and telling me he was going to shoot me in the head and all this stuff. And I said, let me ask you a question. If there's no atmosphere, then what are you breathing right now?
Dave, even knowing and possibly even being a young Earth creationist, we've been around even the most staunch young Earth creationists who hold to the youngest of Earths. Is it because that's where we have our writing up to?
No, and I definitely don't believe it to a degree where I'd want to hurt someone and
Yeah,
murder them. But yeah, I know, but that's not the only basis. In fact, that's not even top 5, top 10 basis.
yeah. I
Yeah,
mean,
I mean,
most young Earth Christians will say about 6,000 because the genealogies go back that far, not because the text that they're holding is 6,000 years old, but because the genealogies within the text date back to that.
correct. We disagree, and you've done this. We do it in biblical studies. We do like, well, when was this book written? And you think about when certain things are dated. You ask any, Joe Schmo archaeologist, like, when would you date this? They
Hmm.
have like few guys are really able to like give a specific date. Some special guys can give a specific year,
Yeah,
but usually it's like a range. It could be, this range or maybe this range. I know it's not that old. I know it's not this young, but I can't like pinpoint. You got to give a range.
yeah,
And even then, though, there's debates over the dating of certain texts, the dating of certain books, not just of the Bible. But no one would argue, oh, do you believe this because of when the book was dated?
right.
I could say one of the reasons I believe it is because of when the book's dated, but like the main reason I believe it is because of what's written in the book, not because of when it was written.
Yeah,
You and I, like, and another, right? But the Pentateuch was written by Moses. Moses is writing about the creation account centuries after it happened.
exactly.
And so if I'm looking at when Genesis was dated, I'm like, okay, yeah, do you want to know when the book's dated or when the events of that book are dated?
Yep.
Because that's a big difference.
So here Billy Carson has completely misconstrued the 6,000-year-old dating. He said it's because
Correct.
of the text, but
Correct.
anyone with an ounce of knowledge as to the biblical revelation would know that Genesis is written by Moses at the time of the wilderness wandering. So the text is dated to that, but that's not why young earth creationists would hold that. It'd be because of the genealogical record which goes beyond the actual writing. We know that there's oral traditions and that's preserved and all of that faithfully preserved because of the poetry that's very clearly in the text. So it's not about that. So there's just sort of misconstrual that he has there, and he does a lot of this. Let me play this. Um,
To you, in your eyes, who is Jesus?
His name is Yeshua. So Yeshua, to me, very powerful person, high level of knowledge, a student of the Egyptian mysteries. When Jesus disappears from the Bible, he actually ends up in Egypt. Okay, you can find this information in a book that was kept out of the biblical text called the Gospel of the Holy 12. And in the Gospel of the Holy 12, he shows up in Egypt, and we know that's a fact because I take people on tour every year to Egypt, and I take them to the house that Jesus lived in. It's a crypt. It's actually worship. People come there to see that bed that he laid in every single year. When I take people there, we take them straight there. So, and we know the path that he traveled throughout Egypt because it's a huge sign outside that Coptic church where he lived that shows where he went. Now,
oh, Dave, did you get that knockdown evidence?
How would I have known if Jesus ever went to Egypt without a Gnostic gospel?
Well, because they have a sign that says Jesus lived there.
Oh, but don't the Mormons say that Jesus lived in Missouri and got baptized in Pennsylvania?
No. You can tell that theirs is a lie because they don't have a sign. They don't have a
But they have a
placard.
book. They have a book of. Well, it's not the book of the 12. It's the
See?
book of Mormon.
Yeah, there it is.
Big difference. And
Well,
well, when's that book dated? Right? When's that dated?
well,
Anyway.
a popular apologist by the name of Mike Jones, aka Inspiring Philosophy. We've talked about him in a previous episode on season 3, I believe, titled Is TikTok the New Evangelism? I think that's when we talk about him. Let's hear about his response to this video. I think he does a wonderful job.
Jesus disappears from the Bible at the age of 12. And where does he go?
It says Nazareth.
There's another text called the Gospel of the Holy 12. And in the Gospel of the Holy 12, which was omitted from the Bible,
You can't omit something from the Bible that did not exist when the Bible was put together. The Gospel of the Holy 12 is a well-known 20th century forgery. There is not an historian alive who thinks it is authentic, but Billy Carson pretends it is and hopes his audience will never fact-check him.
he goes to Egypt with his mother. He went there to study the Egyptian mysteries.
That is utter nonsense.
And then he left there and he went to Tibet to learn spirituality.
He went to Tibet.
And mystic arts. Yes, mystic arts. And then he went down into India, learned about reincarnation and all of that.
There is not a scrap of evidence to support these fables of Billy Carson.
So it seems like Billy Carson is prone to accept anything but the biblical evidence and is willing to use anything but the Bible. He will take in anything, as Mike Jones, Inspiring Philosophy, very aptly points out. He's using a forgery, post dates the biblical canon as evidence, and that's just part of the antics that is going to lead to his demise, folks. Guys, what did we just show you? He's on the Joe Rogan show. He's on this podcast. And it gets worse, but I want to show you a bit more of his conspiratorial type theology. This one might be the worst, but I think it's also partly the most funny. This is on the Joe Rogan podcast.
There's these alignments. And then these shafts would send out this hydrogen frequency, potentially on my hypothesis, around those alignments. Why? For communication purposes. Updates on this breakaway civilization. Because I believe there was an ancient galactic war, which I talk about in my show, my docuseries, Anunnaki. And this ancient war created these space refugees, which then spread out around the Milky Way. Earth just happens to be one of the breakaway civilizations.
It's not outside the realm of possibility when you think about what we're doing. And if we
David, we're space refugees.
Yeah. I just think of the Tom Petty song now. I'm just trying to live like a refugee. You know? Dude, space refugee. I mean, it almost sounds I mean, you just sound smarter and come up with enough terms that people don't even know how to define. You got to be right. Because this guy clearly knows something that we don't know.
And
You know
he
what I'm
said
saying?
hypothesis to start. So he's trying to
caveat.
sound like he's scientific and stuff. He knows
Well, have you read my
cuneiform.
work? It's in cuneiform form, but when you read it on Ancient Aliens, okay, you'll know that we're all just refugees. We're all aliens, man.
Yeah, guys, he is a con man and everyone is buying it somehow. A lot of those clips right on the Joe Rogan show, everyone is just eating it up. Just to sort of display, I'll play this clip and then we'll go into the actual debate portion. But we're setting up who is Billy Carson. He just really is this figure. He's saying all these weird, crazy things. No one is fact checking them because you don't see Joe Rogan fact checking him. You see Joe Rogan bringing up the tablets of cuneiform and stuff, just kind of going with him, trying to learn, because Joe Rogan, when he's out of his depth, he just turns into a listening ear. Which is good. You want someone to be able to do that. But all this to say is he's not pushing back. He doesn't have the knowledge to push back. And so Billy Carson is just able to steamroll through and develop and build an audience. And his YouTube channel, Forbidden Knowledge, is just gleaning so much attraction, and he's making a bunch of money off of this. He's even got celebrities on that, I mean, that are with him. I mean, here's just one celebrity. Let me play this clip.
Introduce you, number one. For everybody who just logged in case you don't know who this man is, this is Terrence Deshaun Howard. He's an incredible mathematical genius. He's a scientist in my eyes. I call him a doctor. You may know him from acting. He's received over 20 awards in various different films. He's had TV series, movies, Iron Man, you name it. The man is an incredible talent and a blessing to the universe, and we're happy to have him here on the Forbidden Knowledge podcast. I just got to make sure I get your introduction in there, brother.
That's amazing.
All right, so there you go. On his YouTube, he's bringing up celebrities too. These celebrities are talking to him. Dave, that would be awesome if we get to even that level of this con man, to be able to bring those types of celebrities in, and then have them just be real happy to converse with us and share in well, actually, I mean, we'll be giving the truth, but they're sort of
they didn't drink our Kool-Aid of our cosmic commode, so
yeah. But I mean, he is a phenomenal actor too. I really do love
mm-hmm.
him and some of his work. When I came across that, I was like, wow, that's no joke. He's surrounded by celebrities. People are giving him the light of day. And when you bring celebrities on, people are going to look at you going, maybe we should be paying attention. He seems to be someone of reputation.
Yeah, and even if you don't like them, well, usually the hate comments are the ones that get more comments. And so you actually get even more views if you no, I don't like you, or something. And so you're going to get even more notoriety by having him on by his fans, or, having him on by his, haters.
Yep.
Either way, you're getting views.
So Billy Carson is someone who describes himself as like a scholar, as the scholar. I couldn't find the clip, but he called himself the foremost scholar on textual and papyri manuscripts. That's wild, especially when you know people who are actually in the field, like Daniel B. Wallace, who wrote the book on Greek. And,
oh my
yeah,
gosh.
Go ahead.
I just feel like the shepherds that threw a rock in a cave that found the Dead Sea Scrolls have a better understanding, have a better knowledge of what they're looking at.
Yeah, and
I don't know.
He really does talk about himself that way. Okay, so let me just set this up real quick. We're going to go into the debate now. This is going to be a good segue into the debate clips and what happens. But Billy Carson really does talk about himself in this way. The clip that we're about to pull up is actually in the quote-unquote debate between he and Wes Huff, a Christian apologist, who's the first person to really challenge him on his views. Now, Wes Huff is a phenomenal guy. He's actually doing his doctorate, and his doctorate is along the lines of textual, inscribal, what does he call it? Like habits. The way that they write and the way that they do things. So he's not just an expert in the text. He's an expert in like the way that they write, the habits of it. So a lot more specific.
This is why they use college rule notebook paper.
Yeah. I mean, his work is great. He's phenomenal. He's Canadian, so he's gonna kill you with love.
There you go.
But anyways, so Billy Carson comes on his friend's podcast. Now, this is his friend and also his next door neighbor. and his friend isn't the most astute person. So he doesn't get any pushback from his friend, and he sort of props up his friend by coming onto the podcast. Well, his friend invites Wes Huff, and I don't think this was meant to be an ambush. I think this was meant to be a bigger collaborative conversation, because as you can see very quickly, the format of this YouTube stream is not debate centered. But it is two people who don't necessarily agree, and they're going to have a conversation. But it does end up being a debate of which Billy Carson does not come out on top. But let's take a look at now the debate and how he describes himself. I'm going to go ahead and play this clip.
Personally, for some years now.
Yeah.
Solid friend, great character, businessman. He's been on Elevating Beyond last time, sharing your whole story behind the story. And what you hugely specialize in as well, you just came back from Egypt, is like the emerald tablets. You've been studying those since what, you were like 6 or something? I think?
No, not the emerald tablets.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, the emerald tablets I've been studying for the last probably 10 years.
Okay.
Yeah, but since I was 6, I was studying aerospace technology, which then led me into understanding more about advanced technologies, and then finding the link between advanced technology and ancient civilizations, and going on literally a 25-year, what's that, 27-year now, goodness, trek around the world. Been around the world now over 18 times. Last year, spent 9 months in hotels.
I remember.
As you know, you were my witness, leaving this big old mansion behind and not going home at all. And
travel grind,
traveling nonstop to these ancient sites to get the information hands on.
All right, so there you can see kind of how he describes himself and how his friend describes him. One of the things that you can definitely see is, and you'll pull out from here, he likes to brag. So, I'm going all around the world. I had to leave my mansion, and that is very much the way that he talks.
Take my word for it, because have you been to these sites? Have you been around the world? Can you read cuneiform?
Dave, did you notice? He was asked, as like, oh, haven't you been studying the Emerald Tablet since you were like 6? He's like, no, just the last 10 years. I was studying aerospace engineering when I was 6.
Ah, yeah, by making paper airplanes going, look, it can fly.
Right?
like studying. Okay, yeah, you came up with a term later going, you weren't going, when I grow up, I want to be an astronaut.
Yeah.
It's like, and then you label it like, I'm studying aerospace because I could find the Big Dipper.
He's
like, I don't know.
He's talking about putting together a model plane as if he's taking out a physics book.
Well, because think about how we are as Christians. Like, I can honestly say, by God's grace, I've been a Christian my whole life.
Yeah.
I have not been a pastor my whole life. I wouldn't consider myself a everyone in the world is a theologian. Everyone has thoughts about God. But even, I'm 6, 7 years old. I'm going to Sunday school. I'm not going, I wonder what N.T. Wright understands about the problem of evil and Paul's understanding of justification. Like, I'm not doing that. I'm like, hey, I learned John 3:16 today, and I know it by heart.
Yeah, look at I colored the giraffe for Noah's Ark.
For Noah's Ark, exactly. And so I could say I knew the Lord my whole life, but I'm not going, oh my gosh, like I was doing this level of study for that long.
Yeah.
Like as a 6-year-old, you probably love space. I'm not going to diss that. But you were studying aerospace. A 6-year-old can't spell aerospace.
Right? It's just hilarious. It's
just I don't know if he even means to embellish, but it's just doing it.
He's just so wrapped up narcissistically in himself that I don't even think he realizes how absurd his claims about himself and everything are. It's sort of like, he's so narcissistic that at some point you drink your own Kool-Aid.
Yeah, and I have to. I mean, and I'm trying to. Let me give the man the benefit of the doubt, because I don't want to be that guy that's like, oh, this is where I went to school. This is all the studying I've done, and like, because we know pride goes before the fall, and so like
That's what
we're
this
saying
story
this.
is.
We're saying this because we know pride goes before the fall. We're about to look at him falling
Yeah.
intellectually in a second. That's why I'm bringing it up, because I don't want to be like, oh, and that would never happen to me. Look at us on our podcast talking, ripping him apart, making fun of like his understanding of aerospace at 6 years old.
Right.
But I'm just trying to show like we can do. I can do it too, but it's like you're not doing that at 6 years old. And then, but he does certainly see himself as an expert. I
Yeah.
have not gone to these sites. I don't know what the emerald tablets are, folks. Whether he studied them or not, I know he made it apparent that that's not relevant. But I don't even know what those things are. I can probably Google it. But so he knows something I don't know. I don't know what they are. He knows them apparently.
Yeah.
But it's just okay.
Yeah.
I'm just when you think about when you're trying to establish credibility, usually you can say, well, I've been able to travel a lot in my life and go to these original sites to research them. Fair enough.
Right.
But when you're telling me like I don't know. Maybe I'm being nitpicky.
No. I mean, he really is propping himself up. He really, like I said, he really does drink from his own Kool-Aid. And he really does talk himself up. So a lot of it's about, look at where I traveled, look how much money I have. And you're going to see all of this come up as this house of cards essentially falls. All of this, I mean, guys, I'm not pulling out random clips and then making you guys listen to it. All of this really does come into play, either to show us a bit about who this guy is or kind of what you're going to see after. But let's just go ahead and dive into the debate now. This is going to be Billy Carson's view as he sets it up himself of what he believes. And then following, we'll go into Wes Huff's response. I forget how long Carson's view is. We may need to just kind of pause and come in and out just to make sure that we don't get copyright striked, because I am taking this and it is very much clipped up. This is by no means the full debate. The debate is on YouTube. It's, I think, like an hour and a half long or something like that. And Billy Carson leaves before that. So I think about 45 minutes is just the host and Wes Huff. So yeah, this is clipped up, but we may have to pause a couple of times depending on how long it is. I'll go ahead and play it now.
That's not accurate.
Sure. And in my videos, and if you listen to the podcast, the statement is according to the Sinai Bible. Okay. According to the Sinai Bible, Jesus wasn't crucified in that Bible. And that Bible predates the King James Version of the Bible. And
I'm going to stop there real quick, just to break it up. But
That's enough right there.
yeah. Okay. So he makes mention of the Sinai Bible. That's going to be real important later. Just keep that in mind. The Sinai Bible. Now that's something I don't really typically ever hear. Like, that's weird. As you said earlier with Emerald Tablets, I would have to Google that. I would have to look up what that even is. Yeah. So we'll see that fleshed out more because that question gets brought up by Wes Huff himself. But what he also says, and what's really interesting, is he says that Bible predates the King James Version.
Cool. Like a couple.
Yeah. Like, all right, Dave.
Oh gosh.
I'm going to put you on the spot, which is always terrible because anytime you get asked a simple question on the spot, you can freeze. But when was the King James written? 1611.
1615?
1611.
1611.
Yeah.
I said 1615. Sorry.
Pretty close.
1611.
This is what I'm saying. I put you on the spot. I already knew that can happen.
I mean, that's a church history question. I was like, man, I haven't.
So the
It's like so easy, it's
1611 Bible, he is comparing something that's supposed to be so historically significant to theology and our concept of Jesus to a Bible that is dated in 1611. When I first heard that, I was like, so what? So does the Gutenberg Bible.
Now I'm shaking in my boots.
Yeah,
I don't know. I can't compete.
The Geneva Bible predates, like, there are so many Bibles which predate the 1611, let alone all the different, like, it was
You mean
ridiculous.
English? Like just English? Like there's other Bibles that aren't in English before that one.
Yeah, the Sinai Bible predates. I'm like, who cares? I mean, you have the Latin version for over let's see, if it's 1611, that means the Latin Bible will have been around for 1300 years.
I mean, if nothing else, at least 100, because Martin Luther in 1517 is mad about it only being in Latin,
Right.
and that's 100 years before the
Oh,
King
I'm
James.
just talking about the Latin Vulgate as the
I
translation.
know, but that's
Yeah.
what I mean. I'm just like, even if you're like one, it's like that's 100 years right
Yep.
there. So I'm sorry. Try
Yeah.
again, Billy. Billy.
So yeah, that was just that really got me when I first heard it. And like I said, we need to make sure that we break up this clip a little bit. So let's continue on.
The text there actually is about 12 to 14,000 differences between the Sinai Bible and the King James version of the Bible, which came much later. And then also one of the things that were interesting is that they discovered the book of Jesus' wife, which is at the Harvard Seminary, which, according to some scholars, is a little controversial, but they claim that this is an accurate record that Jesus may have even been married, which then, adds more, if that's true, it adds more to the hypothesis that maybe he wasn't crucified.
All right. Just pausing there just for a quick note so we can make our way through the clip. Two things he is founding this on. This apparent Sinai Bible, the first thing, the Sinai Bible. So that's his evidence. And then this Gospel of Mary is probably what it is that he's referring to, which also means that Jesus wasn't crucified. Those are the two things that he brings up, and those are the two things that Wes Huff is going to respond to. So let's just continue and make our way through this clip more.
I just personally believe that Jesus was an amazing human being. I don't think that he was the Son of God in the sense that he's God, but that we're all gods. As he said, ye are gods, and that we're to do greater things in him. And I just personally believe that the return of the Christ is the return of the Christ consciousness. When we can all achieve a certain level of knowledge, wisdom, passion, understanding, empathy, love that he came to this planet with.
I just wanted to pause there real quick. Like I said, we're breaking it up, but he said Christ consciousness, and that just popped out like a sore thumb to me, because studying through Schleiermacher and stuff, I have to just say, like, our liberal Protestant theologians open the floodgates to this. Friedrich Schleiermacher, he wrote, and he is titled the father of liberalism, modern liberalism. And his idea of Christ consciousness was not this. It was that we could experience Christ for ourselves, so that is intrinsically evidential for us. So I know Christ because I experience him. His whole thing was feeling. But as we can see later on, it gets developed. And so now we have something else of this Christ consciousness is sort of like an alien entity that you can tap into. And so that's a little bit different. But yeah, he brings that up in my mind. Just all sorts of alarms came up from that. Dave, what did you think of when he said that?
Two things when I heard, well, definitely when I heard, well, a lot of things I don't agree with because I obviously believe Jesus to be the Son of God, that he wasn't
Right.
just a great guy. and it's just how interesting, like a slippery slope of like he'll say something and then right at the end it's like, and now it's a big red flag. Because I mean, if I ever am able to go and get a doctorate of ministry, I, I want to emphasize emphasis in preaching, but I would want to actually discuss in a way a conservative Christ consciousness, a biblical understanding of Christ's, where it's his own understanding of being the Christ, being the
Yeah.
Messiah. That like, hey, I'm not just a human that found out I get to be the Son of God now and the Son
Yeah.
of Man now, but that he knew all along. I'm here as the Son of God. I'm God in the flesh, and then I have a mission that I'm here to do, the will of the one, my Father who sent me, and to redeem my people, and then and the emphasis in preaching, obviously, where it's like as a Christian and as a pastor, I want to preach Christ in every single sermon. I want to preach the
Yeah.
gospel, Him crucified. I'm sorry, Billy Carson, not sorry. Him crucified, as Paul tells us to do, Christ crucified and resurrected. Um, but if I want to preach Christ, if I want to do everything in this world as best I can, and really
Hmm.
in a manner after Christ, I want to do it like Christ did it as best as I can. It's like, well, that means even my preaching. Can I preach Christ like Christ? And I kind of already know ahead of time. It's like, in a way, yes, and in a lot of ways, no,
Right.
because I'm not the Christ, as John the Baptist says. I'm not the Christ, but I am called to be Christ-like. So
Hmm.
what's that balance? And so that's why hopefully it would be a fun kind of dissertation to read. It'll be a fun way to look at preaching where can I preach Christ like Christ? In a way, yes, and in another way, no, because you are not him. And so I say all of that because that triggered me in the sense of I'm not offended, but because Paul tells us that we are to have the mind of Christ, which is like, well, how do you get more Christ consciousness than that? You can't have more of a Christ consciousness than to have the mind of Christ.
Right.
And yet, I don't have his literal brain. And much of my life and the will for my life is not a one-to-one, duplicate of the very Son of God, the Alpha, the Omega, the beginning and the end, the Son of Man.
Yeah, and
You know,
you can see from this too. I mean, he gets very close to Mormonism too, as he talks about
oh
encountering the
yeah,
Christ consciousness, where we're all going to be gods in some sense. And this really gets into his weird space refugee thing as well. He gets even close to Mormonism with this. So very weird. But let's continue on.
And we get that in our mind and our conscience, and we can act on those incredible emotions and that understanding, that the whole world is going to transform instantaneously. And I think that the second coming is the coming of the Christ consciousness to the planet, not a human being flying back to Earth to save people. That's just my personal understanding of how I perceived it over many, many years of going through this information and going through all this text.
And
All right. So there you have it. Dave, this is really just an opinion question, but just trying to think through his theology of we get the Christ consciousness, Jesus isn't coming back in this sense. The eschatological view is that we ascend. Is this a lowering? Is this like a belittling of who Jesus is, or is this an emphasis on the human side so as to raise us up? It's like,
yeah,
I mean, I don't even
yeah,
know what's
yeah.
being emphasized. Is it lowering Christ or is it raising man? I don't even know.
Well, I think it's the latter. I think it's more of a raising a man, just in the sense of, like, I've even preached this past Sunday on just the glory of the Lord, that He would make us humans above angels, that He would make sinners adopted sons and daughters. And so there is a raising up. you who were not my people are now my people. You weren't beloved, now you're beloved. Um, and it's like that. This is Hosea, right? Actually, in the very place where you were called not my people, that will be the place where I will make you sons of the living God.
Right.
And so, but how easy it is to take that passage out of context, where when you look at the rest of Scripture, because Scripture is the best interpreter of Scripture. And when I say Scripture, I don't mean the Gospel of the 12. I don't mean his emerald tablets. I'm talking about the 66 books of the
Yep.
Bible, okay? The 39 books of the Old Testament, 27 books of the New Testament in the Greek and the Hebrew, all the caveats. When you look at those scriptures and they interpret one another and they aid in our understanding that to be sons of the living God, to become daughters of the living God, is to show how wonderful a relationship that we have in Christ, who is the heir of the universe, all of heaven and earth, all of the kingdoms, all the glory. His enemies will be his footstool. It shows you the depth and the breadth of that association, of that relationship, that we are so associated with Christ now that it's like he is our co-heir. He's our older brother.
Yeah.
I'm his bride, which means I get everything the husband has because I married in. And to show how closely knit that is with such language of that familial language. And then even, later where Jesus tells us, I've given you power, even to become, the very children of God. Again, we are so closely related to Christ spiritually now by his righteousness given to us that we can say, and even that, the Lord's Prayer, our Father, Christ's Father is our Father now.
Yeah.
And so I say all that where what I wanted to show is that there is a raising up, actually. I don't want to downplay it. I don't want to be like, oh no, he's raising humans up too high. I see two things happening. He's bringing God too low, and he's bringing Christians not high enough, and not having Christ and God as in the Trinity high enough.
Yeah.
The Trinity needs to be higher, and your view of humanity needs to be higher. Actually, you brought everybody too low. Sorry, I had to verbally process that. So he brought humans too high in an unhealthy sense, that they have this inherent value, that they have this self-righteousness, they have this knowledge, this consciousness, and a superiority. It's like when Christ comes back, it's like, oh, now I understand. And it's like, no.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's nothing that you can, and it's also nothing. This is, maybe a bit on my theological interpretation coming out. I don't think these are things that you can just come to by yourself. That if you're actually going to accurately find out these things, you need the Holy Spirit working in you, and it's through the living Word of God, which I've already defined what I believe to be the living Word of God. And it's the Word of God, even if I don't believe it, but I do believe it.
Oh yeah. I mean, you can tell just as he's talking, he denies the Trinity. So he breaks the Godhead from the start, and then denies that Jesus is God. And then in so doing so too, he tries to elevate man, saying that we will be gods and will experience the Christ consciousness of something. In that sense, there's a lot to it. There's a lot.
And why have
that's
a
messed
Christ
up.
consciousness, right? Why have a Christ consciousness?
Especially if he's not God. Like, what's the point? Why not have
a Muhammad consciousness,
or any like my own consciousness then?
Yeah, true. Yeah. Why is mine not good enough? He knows cuneiform. Why don't I have a Billy Carson consciousness? He's been on Joe Rogan. Why don't I have? You know what? He'd probably tell me you should. Maybe down the line, it's like,
yeah, maybe
imitate me as I imitate Billy Carson. I don't. Like, I don't know. I just I could rant all night about what I
Yeah,
disagree with.
well, let's jump
You know.
into Wes Huff's response.
He's listening so patiently.
I'll,
I just know he is. Just like
I'll break this up too, but I'll try and be a lot shorter just so we can get a more fluid clip. So let's go ahead and see how Wes Huff responds. The Canadian, the absolute beast of a Christian apologist. Let's go ahead and see it happen.
That's yeah.
Yeah, well, first let me say I think it's really cool to not just be in the room proverbially with you, Billy, but be able to interact with you. Because I wish I could be there in person. Unfortunately, Toronto, Canada, is a long way away from Florida. It's a little bit of a jaunt. But I really appreciate the fact that you seem to have investigated to a certain degree some of these facts. Do you mind if I ask a
Kill him with kindness. Did you see how complimentary he was? It's like, I'm really glad that you study up on this stuff.
I'm glad I'm not in the room with you right now.
Yeah.
Like I would have been the young. I'm like I'm glad I'm over here. You enjoy the Florida.
Yeah. So an
He's better than
absolute
me.
kind man right here. Let's continue on.
clarifying question?
Sure.
When you say the Sinai Bible, what are you referring to specifically?
It's the biblical text that was written. It made it into you can actually look it up on Amazon. It's a Bible called, I have a version at home. It's called the Sinai Bible, right, from Mount Sinai. I'm assuming that's the mountain that they're referencing there. But they put together their own version of the biblical text prior to the King James Version being put out.
So there he says it again. The Sinai Bible. This is just the funny thing. He says you can buy it on Amazon. I think that's really important that people might not be catching, because I think that's what he's doing. I think he's just buying this stuff off of Amazon and then claiming he's getting it from ancient libraries or something like that. So his what he's gleaning is essentially what he's buying off of Amazon or Wikipedia type stuff, and then rehashing it as a scholarly work. But anyways, he says that you can get it off of Amazon. That's what he says. Wes Huff is going to probe a little bit further. Let's go ahead.
Sure. So when you refer to the Sinai Bible, would you be referring to Codex Sinaiticus, like the codex that comes? Okay. That's why I was trying to get some clarification, because so you can actually go and see Codex Sinaiticus is at the British Library. So you can go and see it. It's on display. And the British Library has actually digitized the entire manuscript. So I work with manuscripts in my linguistic work. I'm an expert on early Christian scribal culture, and particularly in Greek and Coptic manuscripts.
I'm just going to stop there.
Stop bragging, Wes Huff. Stop bragging.
If you were having a conversation on textual stuff and the guy that you're having a conversation against says this is what he's doing, bro, how scared would you be? I would be sweating bullets if the guy across from me said that.
Like, oh my gosh, he said the Latin version of my Sinai Bible. He's like, oh no, he said it in the OG text.
Yeah, and Dave, it wasn't a Sinai Bible, it was Codex Sinaiticus.
Transcribed. It was cuneiform, transcribed.
Oh, okay. Folks, for those of you that don't understand,
sorry,
all those Bible guys, we know Codex Sinaiticus. It's one of the earliest manuscripts we have, one of the earliest complete manuscripts we have. It's dated to about 300 AD or something like that. But no one calls it the Sinai Bible. I mean, that's just a huge red flag that you have absolutely no idea what you're talking about. We all know it as Codex Sinaiticus. And it took
on Amazon.
Wes Huff probing a little bit deeper to be like, hey, do you mean Codex Sinaiticus? Yes, that's what he meant.
Hey, have you ever had 23 flavor soda? You mean Dr. Pepper?
Exactly.
Like,
Thank you.
How it feels,
that's
dude.
what it sounds like. All right, let's continue on.
I actually have a facsimile. So I have a photocopy that was done by the British Library of
Nerd.
Codex Sinaiticus that I work with in my office. So I have it here, and the only reason I asked for clarification is because I want to make sure that what I'm addressing is actually what you mean.
Gotcha.
And
I'm sorry. Actually, I called him a nerd, and I actually just wanted to say this. Guys, this just speaks to how much of a scholar he is.
Yeah, strong man.
I say nerd in a loving way because I'm actually very envious. He has that. Just so you know, a facsimile of Codex Sinaiticus, they're typically like this thick, and they're about the size of a table. And they run somewhere between $3,000 and $5,000. We have one at Liberty University. You have to, if you want to read it, you have to be attended to by a librarian, and you have to wear white gloves. But that's for the big one. He has a facsimile in a reader's form. I don't even know where you find that. That's how much of a scholar he is. I would love that. I can't find that. So he,
That's not on Amazon.
yeah,
That's
it's
not on
not.
Amazon.
It's not. Wes Huff, if you bring that up again, can you please show the ISBN number on the back of that book? Because I would love to have one for myself. But that's not a normal person book. So that's a little bit of a nerddom, but let's continue on. He's going to talk
And that's
about
Steelman, by the way. Real quick, that's Steelman. I'm not just gonna go like I've visited places. It's like I want to make sure I'm actually addressing and not just talking past you. I love
exactly. And he even says, hey, you can go ahead and look this up in the British Library. You can you don't even have to own the book. You can go to the website and it shows it all, and all of that's absolutely true. So let's continue on.
not addressing something else, because the Codex Sinaiticus in particular is just a Greek. It's a 4th century Greek manuscript.
Mhm.
It comes from approximately between 325 and 350 AD, and its text of the Gospels reads almost identical to the modern Greek text that we develop translations from. So my curiosity is just simply in kind of exploring when you say that it denies the crucifixion or that the crucifixion isn't there. I mean, I can go on right now, Codex Sinaiticus, and I can look up the end of, say, Matthew 27, where it has Jesus being crucified. And that's in Codex Sinaiticus, or, the John 19, or any of the other ones. So I think
your difficulty is what he's trying to nicely formulate in his head right now, folks, is what are you talking about?
Yes, exactly.
He's trying to figure out a way to say, what are you talking about?
Yeah, without like saying you're BSing everybody.
And guys, he is
Like-
exactly right. Codex Sinaiticus is what you have in your Bible. It reads exactly as you do in your Bible, because you want to know something? If it didn't, they would fix it so it goes exactly with Codex Sinaiticus.
Exactly, 100%.
When Wes Huff is saying like, yeah, you can pull up an English Bible, it has the crucifixion. What are you talking about, Billy Carson? I can read the Greek. You want to go over it together? Do you want to pull up the crucifixion as he says in Matthew or Luke? I thought it was real funny that he was struggling to talk about it, because it's sort of like a deer in headlights with too many options. You can see Wes Huff is trying to pull up like which passage, and it's like any of the 4 Gospels. And he's trying to think of which one to reference, but it's like any of the 4 Gospels, they're all in there.
Yeah, it's like, is this guy pulling this out of left field? It's like, oh, he's playing golf. I think I don't even know like where
Oh,
you're
man.
pulling this out of outer space. I think like
Yeah. Okay.
Good.
So we can jump back into the clip, but before we do, I want to point this out, and I'm just going to switch over to the clip. For those of you that are on Spotify, most of this you don't really need to see, but this I'll go ahead and describe for you guys. I'm going to pull this up. Here's one thing that you'll notice from this as it's paused. We have two screens, essentially. One of them's Wes Huff, who is kind of Skyping in, and then the other one is the host with his buddy Billy Carson. Right now, Billy Carson is pulling up his phone. The reason why he's pulling up his phone is he's going to fact check himself, and we'll see what the conclusion of that fact check is. But yeah, we're just going to go ahead and let Wes Huff continue this absolute lecture.
Confusion is that it doesn't read any differently. So actually, are you able to pull up a website with the viewers or listeners or whatever be able to see that?
Right now to make sure I have the right the version that I'm looking at.
While he's pulling that up too, like I keep saying to all the people that aren't scientists traveling the world and linguists, I don't even know how to pronounce it the right way, like me.
Yeah, linguists.
What cyanide? I keep thinking of cyanide, like the cyanide Bible. So
Right.
is that like a version? So from my own knowledge that I know, like when I really studied all this, what I thought was interesting about the Bible was how many different eyewitness. I studied C.S. Lewis back in the day. How many different eyewitnesses and stuff.
I'm sorry, I do have to break up this text, so I'm going to stop there. As you can see, our host isn't the most altogether. That was I think he's sort of filibustering, trying to buy Billy Carson some time, but at the same time, he's taken a long time to say nothing, and he stays that way for the entirety of it. He's
That's
not
going to
exactly
be me
there.
for this whole thing. That's going to be me. Wes Huff can carry this podcast, and then Mike can talk, so I can just sit here and listen. Okay.
Hey, it's a show. So this
Yeah.
like I said, popcorn, guys. If you don't have it, pause it now and go grab some.
Yeah, we're just bringing this to your attention if you didn't already see it.
Yeah,
I'm not really banned,
This is a saga. So
You're welcome.
Continue to watch this absolute show. Let's continue on.
Stuff there were, and they went on purpose to mention so many other names that they were able to cross-reference throughout history and throughout those times, from my understanding. And those were different things that I always thought were kind of interesting, that I felt was a good concept of proof. And then I want Billy to answer, and also I'm just curious, like the Sinai Bible, where was that piece
I found
discovered?
the text where I was referencing. Actually, I was misquoted. I misquoted there. It's the Gospel of Barnabas.
Oh, Billy Carson, it wasn't the Sinai Bible. It was the Gospel of Barnabas, not the Sinai Bible. And folks, unless you think he's misspeaking here, there are many clips. There are many times at which Billy Carson is brought onto a podcast and says that this evidence is from the Sinai Bible. This is not accidental. This is not a slip of the tongue in this one podcast. This is a repeating of what he always says, and this is the first time he's being called out by it. Dave, do you want to add anything, or should we continue?
I want to see more of the action.
All right, let's continue on.
Okay, yeah. Well, so that's good. So let's deal with that too, because I've actually worked with. There are two manuscripts of the Gospel of Barnabas. The Gospel of Barnabas is a really interesting document because it is a known forgery, and so that's why I think.
Two copies, not one. Two copies. I know what you're actually referencing.
By the way, scholars know it's a forgery.
Yes.
All right, let's hear about what these two copies are, because guys, it only gets worse. Let's continue.
It's important to get to these sources. So at the very start of the Gospel of Barnabas, which we only have two copies of, one is in Italian and one is in Spanish.
The Gospel of the Barnabas. Jesus turned water into aioli.
Yeah.
Dude. Bro.
You know the
Like, this is
ancient
like a
languages
softball
that
for
we have to read, Dave. You know,
Oh,
Italian and Spanish.
I mean, Greek is Mediterranean. You know, it's Paul wanted to. Hey, Paul wanted to go to Spain. Okay, he wanted to go to Spain,
Woo!
but
All right.
and he's been to Italy. You know, Rome. But yeah, man, like, there's
Yeah.
nothing worse than be like, you got to back out, man. Just like falling because it's like this guy not only called me out on what I'm misquoting, but then knows what I was quoting better than I do.
Yep.
Like,
And
I
guys,
need to
we're
leave.
laughing so hard because if you have a manuscript in Italian or Spanish, that is incredibly late.
Yeah,
Um,
100%.
and you're gonna see how
100%.
late. So we're gonna let Wes Huff continue. Uh, let's move on.
We see right off the bat that the Gospel of Barnabas, not to be confused with either the Epistle of Barnabas or the Acts of Barnabas, which are two.
Yeah. Actually, I do want to say, so Muslims will do this. They'll talk about the Gospel of Barnabas. Now, mind you, this is a very late source. It's known as a forgery, but Muslims use this to deny the crucifixion. But what they will do is they'll talk about the Gospel of Barnabas, and then when you look it up and you find the Epistle of Barnabas or something, they'll say, yeah, that's what we're talking about. The Epistle of Barnabas is a lot earlier, but doesn't deny the crucifixion or anything like that. So I'm
That's
just bringing this up. I'm
fantastic.
pausing it there because that's just for your own apologetic knowledge. If you talk to a Muslim or something like that, they will talk about the Gospel of Barnabas, typically because you don't know about it, and so you're not going to be able to fact check them. And then when they talk about the dating, they'll be referencing the Epistle of Barnabas or the Acts of Barnabas, which are a different document earlier. Still not very good, still too late, but it's a lot earlier. So yeah, I just wanted to make that distinction for you guys. So you guys don't get caught off guard, but let's continue on.
Two apocryphal documents from the 2nd century. But the Gospel of Barnabas in particular, we know it's a forgery because it does things like in chapter 92, it says that Jesus spent 40 days on Mount Sinai, and then he came to the Jordan River and he walked to Jerusalem. But Mount Sinai is more than a week's journey away from Jerusalem, and neither Mount Sinai nor Jerusalem are close to the Jordan River. So never mind there not being a route from the Jordan River to like around Mount Sinai or going to Jerusalem. But there are internal problems with the Gospel of Barnabas, which indicate that it shows no actual indication of evidence of coming from or even having knowledge of 1st century Jewish understanding. It actually says Jesus.
Yeah, just real quick there. I know I just cut him off. Sorry about that, Wes Huff. But yeah, so the person that wrote it had no idea what Jerusalem was like, probably because traveling back then was either very expensive or very, very, very difficult to achieve. So what he just pointed out there is whoever wrote it wasn't around there, had no
Yeah,
knowledge of it.
they're from Italy and they've never been there.
Yeah. So they're just using these places that they know, like Mount Sinai or something, assuming that it's all together or something, not knowing that they're so very far apart.
Like all the people that have never been to LA,
Exactly.
and I'm just saying that's relevant
For
because
those of you
you and
guys
I
that
talked about
have never been to California, specifically Los Angeles, in the movies, what do you see? Oh, I'm in LA, so they come off the plane, they're at the beach, and then they're at the city, they're at the stars, and then they're
in the
over in
Hollywood
Hollywood
sign,
and all this
Santa
other
Monica
stuff.
Pier.
Guys, those are all so very far apart. The beach and the stars, they're like 45 minutes to an hour apart. At least downtown LA is very far from all of that. And so you're talking about locations that are at least an hour apart from each other. But in the movie, it shows it almost like they're right next to each other. That's essentially what this document's doing. It has no idea what it's talking about. But for those of us in LA, we know exactly how far apart those things are. So let's continue on.
Is the Christ, but not the Messiah, which indicates that whoever the author is, he didn't know that those were the same words. And I think a bigger problem is that the Gospel of Barnabas actually paraphrases Dante's Inferno, which was written in 1314. So There's a lot of internal evidences that disqualify the Gospel of Barnabas, never mind the fact that we don't have any evidence of it prior to the 14th century.
Wow. It paraphrases Dante's Inferno. Yes, Dante Alighieri, Dante's Inferno, the one with the 9 rings of hell. Yes, we are talking that middle century. Guys, it's so late. It is hilarious that this supposed foremost scholar in the field who reads cuneiform himself and translates it and all this stuff has no idea how ridiculously known this forgery is.
Oh my gosh. What I'm quoting is 300 years older than your King James Bible. It's like, I'm not quoting the King James Bible. Also, wow. It's like you really do have the upper hand here. Like, man, Wes Huff knows his stuff.
Yeah.
You guys should listen to his podcast.
Yeah, he has one, by the way.
Yeah.
Do feel free to check him out because he does phenomenal work. So he's definitely gotten a lot more views from this. A little bit more about that after. But let's continue on.
And none in any other language other than Middle Age Italian Italian and Spanish. But the internal content of the Gospel of Barnabas disqualifies it from being ancient. And then the fact that it's doing things like paraphrasing Dante, or it also refers to a rule of the time of Jubilee, which was changed in the Middle Ages from what it was in the biblical year of Jubilee. And it goes with the Middle Ages concept, not the ancient concept. So I think what I'm getting at is, so I'm a historian.
Just to stop there real quick, he really knows his stuff. I mean, Dave, that's really impressive how much he just dismantled that. I mean, he really studied that.
Well,
that
he's a
epistle.
historian. It's his job to know when things happen.
Yeah.
Like, sorry.
So, yeah, that's it.
And I deal with sources. So when I'm looking at sources, I want to make sure that I have a methodology by which I approach any type of source. So if there is something that denies the crucifixion, I want to make sure that I'm analyzing it and that the methodology by which I analyze it actually reveals that the content can be accurately tied to the event. So if we're talking about, say, Codex Sinaiticus, that's in the 4th century. Now that is, I would agree with you, Billy, our oldest copy of the Bible in the sense of cover to cover, Genesis to Revelation copy of the Bible.
Right.
The problem is that we have individual copies of all 4 Gospels going back hundreds of years before Codex Sinaiticus. So I have a facsimile behind me of...
Before he pulls out more nerddom that I wish I had. Yeah, he's not wrong. It's been said by Dan B. Wallace, who I would consider the foremost scholar on textual manuscripts. He said we can reproduce the entire New Testament based off of just the early church quotations of the actual Bible. What that means is, guys, for those of you that have liturgy in your churches, that means you come through those doors, they hand you that little pamphlet at the start, and it says, hey, opening prayer, worship, hear the hymns, opening passage, and then it has the passage there for you to read, and then Old Testament passage, New Testament passage is another passage there, and then a passage that, the pastor is going to preach on. And so you have both of those quotations of the actual Bible. Downer B. Wallace has noted that just off of those quotations by either the early church fathers or the liturgies, we can reproduce the New Testament over and over again. So not even manuscripts of the Bible, quotations of liturgies. One of the things that I'll say for those who go to David's church, thank you guys for having liturgy and continuing that tradition, because this is one instance in which liturgies, did something for textual manuscripts and our knowledge of the Bible.
Thank you. That's why we have liturgies today, by the way, because we use their liturgies.
Yeah.
Like, I don't have to completely reinvent the wheel. My liturgies are just some half, half of them are theirs.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
great.
All right, so Wes Huff is about to get nerdy and pull out a facsimile he created, and I wish I had it.
Of P66. This is a late 2nd century copy of the Gospel of John. I work with this particular manuscript. I can just show the screen right here. This is an almost complete copy of the Gospel of John, and it
Is that the
has the
papyrus by
crucifixion.
any chance?
Yeah,
that
so
where did I
papyrus
see
is just the what it's made out of. So
I got that from
Yeah.
Chat GPT, by the way.
Yeah,
Sorry,
so
guys. I'm just
I
trying
can
to sound
actually-
smart for a second.
I have that papyrus at home.
Oh, that's
Yeah.
a
Well,
Yeah, so I'll show you this. So the documents you actually see on my bookshelf behind me are facsimile papyri that I've made. So when I was in Egypt last summer.
Sorry, I just realized we're using the term facsimile, and people listening might not know what that is. Facsimile is just essentially a remake of, like an exact representation of. So when we talk about a facsimile, particularly in book form, it's a picture of the manuscript, not
Like your
the
facsimile.
translation in English. It's the picture of the manuscript so you can see it for yourself. And then when you have a really good facsimile or a replica, which can be almost synonymous in times, what he's pulling up are facsimiles, which are books that have the exact picture of the document so you can read it for yourself, see it for yourself, not just rely on someone who is publishing it in English for you. But then also he creates replicas, facsimiles of these himself because, and well, actually, I'll just let him say it here in a second.
I went and I got made for me some papyrus sheets. And so I take these papyrus sheets, which are made from the papyrus plant. And then when I go and I look at actual manuscripts, so I was at the University of Philadelphia last summer, and I went and I saw a document called P1, which is a 3rd century fragment of the beginning of the Gospel of Matthew. And so what I did is I sat down with that original and I produced a facsimile. So I copied the text. First of all, I cut it out with an X-Acto knife in not the original 3rd century one on my papyrus. I cut out with an X-Acto knife this guy, and then I copied the text transcriptionally on the front and the back. So papyrus is just simply, it's what it's made out of.
Yeah.
And so there's categorizing systems, and the standard one is called the Gregory Alland categorizing system. And so sometimes you'll see when manuscripts are mentioned, they'll have a GA and then a number behind it. If it's made of papyrus, you simply abbreviate the word papyrus to P, and then you have the numbering system.
All right, real quick, Dave. How much do you want that replica that he made?
About as much as I want Q.
Yeah.
That's another Bible nerd joke. No
Yeah.
one's gonna get that. I that's so cool. I'm glad he has time to do that. Also,
Yeah. It
I-
is real cool that he can do that and replicate it like that. I mean, that's just wonderful to see.
And you've come and visited me. You've been able to go to the Museum of the Bible with me in DC. And how many, we think of how many documents are extant that are existing, and then to have actual copies of it, or not actual copies, but to have the actual documents is so hard.
Yeah.
And then to be able to find, copies, and we went through a lot of exhibits, and it's like, oh, this is a copy of that document. This is a copy. It's essentially they framed facsimiles.
Mm-hmm.
And then what he has done is almost like an in-between. It's better than a facsimile, but it's not the actual document because he's taken the time I'm going to take actual papyri and cut it out with an X-Acto knife.
Yeah.
I know how to read and write in Greek, so I'm just going to just try to slant it the way it's slanted. If there's a hole, I'm going to cut out a hole in the text and just because I want a little miniature version of what P66 looks like.
Yeah.
And so when we come and say hi to Wes Huff in Canada to get some ham, we can go, hey man, can I see your little,
It's so cool.
Yeah.
I got to see the Dead Sea Scrolls fragments this last weekend, and I mean, guys, he does a wonderful job of replicating these things.
Yeah.
Um,
You remember
it's
that tiny one at the Oriental Institute? Like the actual, like so small.
yep,
It was like
yep.
2 inch by 3 inch piece.
So yeah, it's a
So cool,
little
dude.
nerddom. Every time I call him a nerd, though, just know I mean it with the most love because I am definitely one of those, and I wish
Such a
I
TA.
had the ability to do that. But yeah, it's awesome. I mean, notice the difference here between Billy Carson and Wes Huff. Billy Carson props himself up. He says, I'm the textual manuscript guy. I have all this money. I go around doing this. You can buy it off of Amazon. And Wes Huff is the guy who's just like, hey, I'm just happy to be here in the room with you, even if it's cyber. Let me just ask you a couple quick questions. Actually, that's not right. Let me show you something that I did myself. Like I'm kind of a Bible nerd, but I like to like cut things out and make it look like exactly the way it is. You kind of got some things wrong. Like he's coming from a level of humility. I mean, you could not have a more stark contrast. And the stark contrast is even worse when you realize the biggest contrast is in knowledge. Here, Billy Carson knows nothing about what even he's talking about, and Wes Huff knows everything that he's talking about and is just dismantling him. We have about 3.5 minutes left, and I think that's where he moves on to Mary. If not, I'll try and speed it up.
So P66 have, P46 and P47 on. We have single copies of the Gospels that can be dated to the 2nd century.
No forgery in this, but I'm going to go with that. Let's talk about the Old Testament.
Crucifixion. And so if we're relying on something like the Gospel of Barnabas, which is not just like, it's not that there's debate about it, it's that it's a known forgery. I mean, no one's referring to the Gospel of Barnabas as anything other than.
If you say it's a known forgery in this, but I'm going to go with that.
I just wanted to point that out. He says, all right, if you say it's a forgery, we'll go with it. Something really bothers me about that. He sort of concedes that, but at the same time, he doesn't really concede it because he says, if that's what you're saying, sure, we'll go with that. As in, it's not really, oh, I'm wrong, I'm sorry. It's more
We
of
just gotta
like,
make this progress.
yeah,
We gotta
it's,
keep the conversation going.
I'm trying to think of like what essentially he's saying in a more explicit form, but it's like, for sake of argument, sure, we'll say that you're right, right? It's like it's not that he's saying that he's wrong, it's that he's saying, sure, like I will hypothetically say that you're right to continue on the conversation. So that's one thing that I noticed. Let's continue on.
Let's talk about the Old Testament a little bit, leading up into
And
the
see
New.
Well,
now
hold on,
he's
because do
changing
you mind if
subject.
I address the Gospel of Jesus' wife?
Sure, go ahead.
What was her name?
Yeah,
I'm like trying to write notes like I know what I'm doing, but I'm just curious.
so the Gospel of Jesus' wife doesn't actually mention. So oftentimes what happens is that the text of the Gospel of Jesus' wife is kind of paralleled with the Gospel of Philip, which mentions that that Jesus would kiss Mary Magdalene on the mouth. And so those are kind of used in parallel to kind of for this argument that Jesus was married. So the Gospel of Jesus' wife is in the Harvard Library. However, the reason we know it's also not legitimate is because even though the manuscript, the papyrus that it's on, was carbon dated to the 4th century, the text was actually copied from a PDF version of the Gospel of Thomas known as Grandin's Interlinear, and there was a mistake in the Coptic text of Grandin's Interlinear that was copied into the Gospel of Jesus' wife.
You nerd.
Dude, that's like like folks, you understand? It's like me going out and I'm gonna take a portion. Like we brought up C.S. Lewis, the other guy, so I'm just gonna use C.S. Lewis.
Yeah.
I put a page of The Lion, the Witch, and the Wardrobe on a stone I got from a pyramid in Gaza, I wrote this on a piece of wall from King Tut's tomb.
Yeah.
It's like, okay, cool. So the material you got is old, but the text isn't old.
Yeah.
You know what? No, I'm gonna write an inspiring quote from a famous comedian I listened to 2 days ago on a piece of wood of a redwood tree that you're not supposed to cut down, but it's for the sake of argument, that's centuries years old. But it's like, but the quote isn't old.
Hey guys,
And so like
let me point
that's like the
something.
Dave dumb version of like, how do I understand what he just the bomb that he just dropped?
Yeah, and
Okay,
let me point
like
something out about something that you thought might have been obscure previously, and the reason why we are big in the scholarship world when it comes to plagiarism and citation. The way that he just cited, the way that we know it's a forgery. Okay, the papyrus is dated real old. You can purchase papyrus that old. You can purchase vellum, which is the smoothed lambskins that old, and then scribe something onto it. There will be a different carbon dating of the ink or whatever from the substance, as David just talked about. You can put C.S. Lewis on a pyramid stone. Doesn't mean that C.S. Lewis is that old. But here's where plagiarism and citation comes to the forefront on why we're so finicky. Why we're so big on citing your sources. So the reason why you have to cite your sources is because the first edition to the second edition might have a different numbering system. So I need to know which one it is, because then your pages correspond to the quote that you say. What we just saw here is that the electronic edition, like a Kindle edition, will have something else as well. The way that we know it's a forgery is, as he said, the papyrus is old, but the text is a copy from the Coptic PDF, which simply just means the Egyptian translation from a PDF. That specific printing of that Egyptian copy in a PDF form happened to have an error. So if you're tracing back the sources through that footnote to get to it, they accidentally produced an error in the PDF of that. And whoever had taken this papyri was writing down from the Gospel of Thomas on a PDF that had a very specific PDF that contained an error. So when you backtrack all of this stuff, you can tell it's a forgery because it's using an electronic source that had an error on it, whereas the other thing didn't have an error on it. So plagiarism and citation wins the day here.
and just can you imagine hearing that too? It's like we're not saying the Gospel of Thomas is true, but this copy is not even true to the Gospel of that document.
Yeah.
Like it's such a bomb. Like it really is a bomb that he lays. Like you're just seeing a prime example of a guy who checks his sources.
Yeah.
Good, get your facts straight before you just start telling people this is what's right, this is what's wrong. You should listen to me.
Yeah.
It's like this is just I'm not trying to pick apart. Look, this is a fun way to see how someone's being silly and how someone's not silly. But I just this is in your own life. Get your facts straight when you're going to try to make an argument. Don't just say an opinion, because Proverbs, man, everyone sounds right until the second person is able to give that argument. So
yeah, absolutely. And so we just see a bit more. Now I think we have one more stopping point just for copyright reasons, but we'll just finish off here. So let's continue on.
So we know that this is not a legitimate document, even though the papyrus is ancient, and this happens a lot with forgeries. I have a couple of friends who have actually worked on projects that have revealed forgeries within Dead Sea Scroll manuscripts and within other ancient Christian papyri. But the reason why we know the Gospel of Jesus' wife, and that Karen King, who kind of vouched for it and she lost a lot of credibility, unfortunately, for her, and she's admitted that it's a fake as well, was because we can tie it directly to...
He's around the people. That's pretty awesome. I mean, you name dropped Karen King, said she's even admitted it. She came forward with it. So he's around the knowledge of even the people that surround this document. I mean, like I said, from the start, I would have been sweating bullets when he talked about his speciality. So let's continue on and finish off.
Not copying from an ancient text, but actually copying from an online version of the Gospel of Thomas in a PDF form. And the mistake on that PDF form was copied into the text that was borrowed in the phraseology of Jesus' wife. So I just point that out is, once again, with our sourcing, I think we need to make sure that we're going towards not just early sources, but actually credible sources. And unfortunately, neither the Gospel of Barnabas nor the Gospel of Jesus' wife are credible sources in terms of actually, and agreed upon by not just the vast majority of scholarship, but I don't know anybody in the field of papyrology, paleography, historiography, who actually refers to these documents as being legitimate.
That's fair enough. I can respect that. So let's go into the Old Testament a little bit.
Fair enough. Let's change topics.
Thank you for letting me live for the sake of argument.
Yeah, and I'm just gonna. I don't think there's anything left here. I'll play out the next 15 seconds, but I don't think there's anything left.
Predominantly, from my research, I discovered that a lot of information from the Enuma Elish and the 7 tablets of creation is a lot of the in Genesis.
Yeah, no, that's it. He switches topics. Wes Huff does a phenomenal job of even addressing that as well. So if you guys want to hear more about that, feel free to listen to the entire thing. Like I said, at one point, Billy Carson actually gets up and walks away. Wes Huff actually experiences technical difficulties quite a bit during it. So if you notice the sort of like glitch in his voice, that's actually not on our end. That's in the actual live stream itself, because he was experiencing technical difficulties throughout the entire podcast. But Dave, I mean, we just saw the quote unquote debate. An absolute dismantling has occurred. What we were taken to school.
I was taken to school. I'm just like,
yeah, some of the stuff is like, man, I mean, because we don't typically, we're not looking at the forgeries and then trying to study them more. With you and I mean, we're biblical studies type people. We dive deeper into the Bible, but we can thank people like Wes Huff who
exactly. I'd
have
cite
done that.
him. Like I'm the guy that's like, I'm gonna quote Wes Huff, and you have to take my word for it that you can take his word for it.
Yeah.
Okay. And please, like, and it's like, trust my research that I found the guy that did his research. Okay. And no one's like, no one's above the law. No one's like, like, oh, how dare you fact check me? Do you not trust? It's Paul encouraged and praised the Bereans when he was talking to the people of God in Thessalonica for fact checking him.
Yeah.
Hey, you guys, after I spoke with you, you went and diligently searched the scriptures to find what I was saying. And that's like the real deal, right? If you're telling the truth, you have nothing to be afraid of. You're always going to like, yeah, go check. Even in like I mean, we do this even in humble ways of trying to settle a debate in a family. You go Google it, right? We say that all the time. You can Google it, and then we'll settle the debate. And then, but Wes Huff, for us when we're doing biblical studies, it's not even just enough to Google it. It's like, okay, well, what are you finding when you Google it? Because it's like you
Here's
could find
the funny thing about
Did you quote
that though.
Babylon B, or are you quoting like a real article or what?
David Wood, an apostate prophet, who's now Christian, by the way. So, folks, if you guys remember the episode I just referred to earlier in the podcast, but is TikTok the new evangelism? One of the people that I cover real briefly is apostate prophet. I told you guys to pray for him. Your prayers are answered. He is now a catechumen in the Orthodox Church. He classifies himself as Christian. So your prayers are answered, and that's just one thing. But yeah, they were commenting on this podcast and stuff, and they paused it at that, and they actually Googled it. And a quick Google search actually showed this, and a quick Wikipedia read showed everything that Wes Huff was saying. So the funniest thing is Billy Carson didn't even Google it, didn't even Wikipedia it, because a very quick, like less than 3-second search bar on Google would have brought all of this to light.
No kidding.
Well,
Man.
anyways, from the from this absolute dismantling and being taken to school by Professor Huff, needless to say is he did not look good after this. After this was posted, he tried to do some damage control. And one of the things he actually, sorry, this is Billy Carson. Billy Carson tried to do some damage control because clearly he lost the debate. And he got made to look like a fool because he is a fool. And that was made very clear with this debate. So he actually went on his Forbidden Knowledge YouTube. He created a 3-hour live stream. And he thought he was going to save face. He gave all sorts of excuses, one of them being I was sick. Let's see if I can play this clip real quick. I'm going to try and not play that many more clips anymore. We're kind of at the end of our podcast, so I'm going to be a lot more sparing. But let's see if this is short.
And went in the hospital prior to this whole thing happening. And when I say I was sick, I was deathly ill. I actually almost died. We did a whole podcast about this maybe a couple of months back when it first happened.
That's good enough. So he said, I just came out of the hospital and then I went over to my friend's house and I didn't know that there was a podcast. I was ambushed. And because of this, he actually said he's going to sue everyone involved, including his friend. So let's just hear him say this himself.
But he had an incentive. There was an extra incentive for defendant number 3 to take this footage and put it out. He has a direct connection in some way, shape, or form to defendant number 1, which we will find that out in discovery. The money that you thought you were making and the popularity you thought you were making is all going to be spent on attorney's fees. And I don't care if I win or lose. I just want you to spend money. You see?
How Christ conscientious of him.
Yeah, the funny thing about this too is so many people have commented that that one little clip that you just saw actually loses his case too. Because,
Yeah, why would you say that?
yeah.
Exactly. Oh my
So
gosh.
this isn't a guy who's thinking right. One of the things he gets backlash to is he talks about like, oh, they're just not like us. I make all sorts of money. They're just poor people. They need to do this. And a lot of his own followers that were trying to back him hear how he's talking about like, oh, they're poor and all this other stuff. And he goes, dude, they're like, dude, I'm poor, like I don't have that kind of, you're talking bad about me. So, I mean, the Titanic stayed more afloat than him in this 3-hour response that was supposed to be damage control, but only ended up further tearing the ship and sinking it. So he did that. We'll just see Wes Huff chronicle that he was getting sued as well. So let's go ahead and look at that real quick.
Billy Carson is attempting to sue me. For those of you who don't know, I was invited to interact with Billy on a podcast that he agreed to come on. It was not his podcast, where he was notified beforehand who I was and what we'd be talking about. After that debate took place, Billy attempted to suppress the footage. That didn't really work. I've released clips from that conversation. While Billy does not...
Actually, yeah, let me cover that. So he tried what he just said, and I wasn't able to get these clips either, because there's a lot of clips that I pulled from all sorts of different places because Billy Carson was copyright striking a lot of people that were putting this knowledge up. So he was doing a lot of damage control. But one of the immediate things is he went over to his friend's house with essentially like I wouldn't say a cease and desist, but yeah, a lawsuit thing. He went over to his friend's house in the middle of the night to say, don't post that video. Ended up getting posted anyways by the producer. But what followed after is the legal stuff that came out after. And so, yeah, he did a lot of damage control, and he tried to personally make sure that it wasn't posted. So that's what Wes Huff is referring to. We'll continue on.
Want you to see those clips and has sent me a cease and desist letter. I was really hoping that this could be an opportunity for Billy to learn, to see the major errors that he's been repeating and turn this into a learning experience. I even offered to follow up with Billy in.
I'll just stop it there. As you can see, he's getting sued. He posted the letter, and what he ultimately ends with, what Wes Huff says is, it's staying up, and we'll go to court. Obviously, that didn't last very long because Billy Carson's inability to think actually ruined his own case, as he even said, "I'm just doing it to cost them money." What happened from this? Okay, guys. Billy Carson was a rising star without being checked. Wes Huff was a Christian apologist, much like with our YouTube. Not a lot of viewership. Not a lot of people like to learn academically about the Bible or anything like that. So he was just another YouTuber, just trying to get some views and trying to bring knowledge to the body, as we all are. But what happened from this is he became a rising star that shot up overnight. So where Billy Carson was the guy on Joe Rogan, now Wes Huff is, and I'll go ahead and play that clip for us right here.
He sent a number of cease and desists.
It's unfortunate.
It is unfortunate.
When you get caught with your pants down, you're supposed to say, "I got caught with my pants down."
Yeah,
that's what you're supposed to do. Like,
yeah,
it's the only, especially if you're public. Like, it's very clear that you're incorrect.
Well, the irony of this situation is if he just kind of left it, it probably wouldn't have made anywhere close to the splash.
No,
that it's made, and we told him that. We said, like, "Hey, Barbra Streisand effect is going to happen."
Yeah,
like, you're a big enough personality that if I make a video and say, like, "Hey, I had this conversation, didn't go well for Billy, and Billy doesn't want it released," that's going to start to gain traction sooner or later.
Yeah.
Man, a reversal of fortune. So he's now on the Joe Rogan podcast. He is getting all the views because now everyone is finding out about this and coming to see him. They want to hear from Wes Huff now. So now he's on the Joe Rogan podcast. Now he's been elevated, and even Joe Rogan is like, "Yeah, I didn't know about that before, when I interviewed him." Like, the dude's a loser. He should have just said, "My bad," but instead he went kind of meltdown. And so now on a Joe Rogan level, everyone has seen this. What were you going to say, David?
Well, and Joe Rogan's even kind of doing, in his own way, what Billy should have done, because he's like, actually, like, I had him on, and we brought it up, right? Like Joe Rogan wasn't fact checking him. He was like, oh, that's not outside the realm of possibility. Like, he's not necessarily, Joe Rogan wasn't necessarily conceding anything or like going, 100% affirmation. But he wasn't going, well, actually, the Sinai Bible, do you know about the Sinai Bible? Do you know what Codex Sinaiticus is? No. And meanwhile, Wes Huff, you'd find someone that does know what he's talking about. And then to the point where Joe is able to bring him on, the irony, not because it's like, hello, guy that I've never met before that could outsmart Billy Carson. It's, hey, hello, guy that's being sued by Billy Carson.
Yeah.
Like, the guy that I had on show like a month ago, he's suing you? Why? And so...
Because he's a sore loser.
Yeah. Which is
he is getting sued
irony.
for losing a debate. Like, it just... Man, this whole thing just got crazy, guys. And the reason why we're making this...
You know?
Yeah, and the reason why we're making this as a podcast episode is, guys, if you're hearing this for the first time through this podcast, which is very possible, like what we are chronicling is what came to the forefront of even the non-Christian world. It came to center stage in culture for a brief moment. We were seeing atheists, Christians, and all alike, because at a Joe Rogan level, on a Joe Rogan stage, we see this story unfold. And so this was one moment in when Christian apologetics came to the front as a hero, and we got to see this crazy drama unfold before our eyes. And so now you get to see essentially the story being told on this podcast, which is just real cool. I just want to finish with this clip right here, because Wes Huff just shot up to stardom. His YouTube, go ahead and support him. Go ahead and subscribe to him. He's got a lot of good content. But he just got so many followers overnight. His videos do well. He's very, very informative. But from that as well, all of a sudden, a lot of people wanted to challenge that fame, because, you know, if you challenge that, you have the potential to actually ascend to that as well. And so a lot of people were saying, hey, I want to debate you. And so he had to produce this video right here, and I'll try and shorten it.
Just hopping on here to say that things have been crazy lately. My Christmas break had a little bit of Christmas and absolutely no break. But I do want to hop on here and just say something quickly. Since the Billy Carson thing, I have received, and I kid you not, hundreds of debate challenges from all over the map. Billy Carson followers, atheists, Muslims, agnostics, Mormons, even other Christians who think that I'm translating the Bible wrong or using a Bible translation they don't like. Everyone, from just regular people who think I'm wrong to other people in related fields with PhDs themselves. So let me just quickly say something here. I don't consider myself a debater. I'm not looking to become a professional debater. Have I done formal debates in the past? Yes. Will I do them in the future? Probably, but I am not obligated to agree to every debate challenge that comes across my desk, especially right now amidst the craziness that's currently taking place in my life. And I'm not running scared of you because I say no to your debate offer. My schedule right through 2025 was full last summer. I had told my wife I was going to do no more traveling or speaking months before I even interacted with Billy. I am not a full-time YouTuber. I have a full-time job, a job that has responsibilities and regular daily commitments. On top of that, I'm
I'm just gonna stop it there, because we don't need to see the full thing. There's about another minute left, but you get the gist. He is flooded with everyone in response trying to either take him down or rise to stardom in going up against him. And it just goes to show, I mean, he was a nobody previously, and now he is a somebody. And that's just a wonderful testimony of God's work right there. Someone who was faithful, someone who has studied, who was in the library, and now he has, I think, the attention he deserves. It's wonderful to see that, and I think he did a real good job there of even addressing people. Hey, I don't have to debate you. I'm not running from you if I do. He's in his PhD right now. He's not a doctor. He's not Dr. Huff. He is in his dissertation phase. He's studying, he's reading a lot. And so he's being selective with who he interacts with. And as he even says, I think in that video clip, he's like, I chose this because it was low hanging fruit and he was getting a lot of attention. And then he also said, you know, if I decline your podcast, but I end up on the Joe Rogan one, it's because he's Joe Rogan. Like, you don't really have the viewership Joe Rogan has, and so he's not trying to, you know, he's not trying to do the tour. But if something big comes up, he'll try and make time for that. But he is a doctoral student who's trying to get everything in order and his ducks in order, and so he's yeah, it's sort of a cool story here, and here we are at the end. We're gonna go ahead and wrap up. It's a cool story of which, you have this con man talking big. No one is fact checking him, and then you have a humble, studied Christian man who dismantles him. And I mean, it's almost like a proverb. How you can almost paint this in a biblical story. There is a role reversal here, and the faithful man rises up and is the hero of the day. And so it's a really cool story, and I wanted to highlight that for anyone who has not heard of it. Like I said, this is old, as you even saw that final clip in which he was saying, "Hey, I'm getting a lot of requests, and I don't have time for that." That was like January, like early January, right? I mean, here we are, starting April. So this is sort of old news, but he's still doing stuff and appearing on some podcasts. I think he was with Mark Spence recently, because I follow Mark Spence on Instagram. So yeah, he's doing good, and I hope he can somehow latch onto a bit of that attention for his entirety of his doctorate, and then come out after he's a doctor and has more free time to be able to do more YouTube clips, and then actually ride that attention back up, because it's kind of not optimal when you have to choose whether you're going to latch onto sort of a attention and moment that you have to write it up, and not give the attention to your doctoral study, which is really what you're called to. Or do you focus in on your doctoral study and miss out on potentially giving a lot of good attention for the kingdom in the inopportune moment that it's given to you? And so I don't envy Wes Huff in the position that he's in, but I am also thankful that he does try and ride that line, and he is faithful to his calling. Dave, do you have anything to add or anything else? Because we have gone very long, but you know what? It is also the first episode of season 4, and I thought, you know what? Let's start with a big, long banger of an episode, because some of y'all have been waiting quite a bit, and we just thought we'd give you a big one.
Yeah, no, it's great. I'm thankful. If I'm gonna brag tonight, Wes Huff was a young man that I already knew about, and a lot of videos I listened to because Pastor's algorithm.
Yeah.
A lot of just, and it's not even like, and I'm coming out from a place of, I'm not like, yeah, look at Billy Carson, boom, roasted. Like, now get down off your high horse, and don't show your face again. No, I'm not that. I'm gonna be praying for Wes Huff, because this is a guy that just, like, yeah, I feel like we're like the same age, but he's already forgotten more than I'll know, and I'm humbled by his humility. And I was like, gosh, this guy's got a rap sheet, and he's just like, can I just show you a few things?
Yeah.
Like, before you put your foot in your mouth, or just to save face. And so, but I'll be praying for him, because I had watched bits of the debate, but I didn't know the full extent, because I've been in my own little, wind tunnel.
Yeah.
Where I will be praying for this too, because this is just, it's a sore loser now, and it's Satan saying, you know what, hey, I'm going to try to lead people astray with this man, and you know what, and now I hate the church, I hate the bride of Christ, and I'm going to use this man to bite this particular individual back just for his faithfulness. And so I'm just thinking, I'm going to be praying for this guy. I'm thankful for the algorithm that it didn't take this for me to know about him, that, like, I just knew this, and I am so looking forward to him being done his PhD, so I can, host on public. But I know what you're going through with your PhD a little bit. I don't even know the half of that. And just, things that you got going on in your life, and then imagine, like in an instant, with like even like just like his podcast was bigger than this one, but I'm just saying like in an instant, I'm doing my PhD, I have my family, I have responsibilities. I was just trying to do this to help.
Yeah.
So like he even said like I heard what he was saying, and it's just not true. And so I'm not trying to like, this is my chance to make it big. This is my chance to show the world how smart I am. It's like, no, I just want this guy to know the truth.
Yeah. And
not lead
I
anyone
want
astray.
him to not lead others astray.
Correct.
You know, so it's sort of like a let me put out the fire from hurting everyone else.
Correct. And now he's dealing with, but you know what? Like Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego, this, metaphorical furnace of whatever might ensue, that get a GoFundMe, the church would pay for his court fees. Who knows?
Yeah.
But I mean, my big lesson is like, just like this is like a fun way to like, folks, when you're hearing anyone speak, any pastor talk, any blog post, fact check, listen. Do not just go on, well, this guy sounded smart. This guy sounds like he knows what he's talking about. He throws out names. He throws out sources. Wes Huff did what Billy Carson did. He threw out names. He threw out terminology. He threw out sources. But his were actually true.
Yeah.
And so please use the resources that are at your disposal and fact check them, talk to people, look at the primary sources. And as Paul says, be a noble Berean. Listen to ground level theology. Be a noble Berean. Write down in the comments if we got something wrong. Let us know. We'll be the first to repent. We won't sue you, I promise.
Yeah. I couldn't have said it better myself, and I don't have much to add other than I'll say it again, or I'll put it up again. Don't forget to like this. Don't forget to share this, or subscribe. Ring that notification bell just so you get alerted when these drop. They do drop every Wednesday evening. But go ahead and like it. It really does help the algorithm for other people to see this type of content. So don't miss out on that. But yeah, I hope you really enjoyed this episode. I hope you've made it this far. And I hope you're all done with your popcorn now, because it was a lot of fun telling you the story. And it was even more fun experiencing it at the end of last year and seeing all of this unfold on the main stage. I agree with David. Be a noble Berean. Just always check your sources, even if it's me or him. Like we love to see people make sure that what they're hearing and listening to is correct. With all that being said, we've spent so much time with each other and we love it. We love you guys. We missed you. We know that we took a little bit long to get started, but we promise we will be putting our efforts into producing quality content for you, so that we can enjoy this entire season together. Season 4 is going to be a big one. We're looking forward to it. And we'll be seeing you guys in the next episode. See ya.